Friends, it's Terri Gaines. In yesterday's video tutorial, I shared how I created these 3 cards using the Changing Leaves bundle, which is a hybrid folder and a stamp set. The stamp set has 8 images. The hybrid folder has a folder and 8 dies. One of the dies you can use with the folder, and it's really cool because it will emboss and cut out those images at the very same time. Or you can use the embossing folder just to emboss your image. You can use this die to cut out the 3 images in the stamp set. You have additional dies to be creative with and 5 sentiments in the stamp set. I use the Sweetness of Nature's Designer Series paper, which is a 12 by 12 paper that is specialty because one side of the print has a gold foil design, and then on the other side you have some background designs. This is 12 by 12 in size. You get 2 each of the 12 by 12, 2 each of the 6 double-sided designs. So what I want to share today is when I created these cards and used that hybrid folder, it cuts out the leaves for the cards, but you get this left over. So to make the 3 cards, I have one of these in Peddled Path, one in the gold foil paper, and one in the specialty paper, the Nature Sweetness paper. Well, I created cards with these, and that's what today's tutorial is going to be. In the text portion of this video, I will link the tutorial in the blog post to these 3 cards so you can get all the details to make those 3 cards. So for this card, the card base I'm going to use is basic white. I have it at 8.5 by 5.5. You can score it at 4 1/4, or you can fold it by just lining up the ends. I like to get those all matched up and then bring a bone folder in and crease those edges. So that's how I'm going to fold that. So that's the card base. Then I call out an embossed layer. And I'm going to use basic white. It's 5.5 by 5.5. And this needs to be embossed with the very same folder that these were created with. So if you do not put the cutting device in here, which is this piece, and if you are going to use this piece and haven't watched the previous video, it goes on the logoed side, cut side up. You place it in here, you'll know when it fits perfect because it fits nice and snug and it doesn't rotate. If you put your cardstock down and run this through your die cutting machine, it's going to emboss and cut those images out. I don't want to cut them out, so I'm going to remove that. Place this in here and I'm going to center it. It's 5 by 5, so it's square right now. I'm going to place this in and run it through, and it's going to look like this. So this is how it's going to look. So that's what we need here, the embossed layer 5 by 5. Then we need the leftover paper or cardstock from the leaf dies. This is 5 by 5 for the instructions for this card. So I'm going to use this one in the tutorial. These can be created or used to create the same cards. I'm going to set those aside. We need some decorative images. These dies have some great decorative images, and when I cut these pieces, for example, the gold foil is 12 by 12 sheets. I cut this 5.5 by 5.5. That meant I had 1-inch strips left over in 2 different lengths in this direction, and then I had this. I utilized these for decorative images, so I cut out one of these and one of these per card, and then I cut this out of the Peddled Path. So for the decorative images, I have one of those, and the Peddled Path. Then I have a sentiment label. This die set has 3 labels. I'm going to use the circle label, and the stamp set I used for that is the Layering Leaves, the 4U. And the ink I used is Peddled Path. So that's what we have called out for our supplies. So I'm going to set all of this aside, and then we're going to work on the assembly. So to assemble this, the first thing I want to do is, I'm going to put that aside. I need to adhere this to this image. So you can see if we line this up, Then through the cutout image, you see the embossed image on that basic white. What I'm going to do is bring in my silicone craft mat. I'm going to turn this upside down onto that. I'm going to bring in the liquid glue, and looks like I forgot to grab that. So I am going to just put everybody on hold for 1 second. Sorry about that. I had to walk across the room because I actually stamp and die cut and everything on the other side of the room, and I forgot to grab this to bring this over. So my videos are unedited, so we had a little pause there. Now I also need a sponge or a sponge dauber. I have a sponge dauber that I've dedicated to liquid glue. It stays by my liquid glue bottle, and I'm going to use that sponge dauber. How I do this is I turn this upside down, and then what I'm going to do is just put dabs of glue here. Oops, I put way too much. I typically don't use this glue for regular card making. I know so many people love it. I use it for purposes of layering things on. What's nice about it, it is gives you time to reposition things. And also the other important thing is to have your silicone craft mat here. Because what I'm going to do is take this sponge, dab it into the ink, and my goal is not necessarily to get ink on every part of this paper, but on all of these edges by the opening. So I am dabbing this, and my hand is probably in the way, but what I'm doing is I've got some glue on the sponge dauber now, so what I can do is just go along, and especially on the edges of the die cut, and it gets really sticky. And as I mentioned, my sponge dauber has been used before for liquid glue. What's nice about the silicone craft mat, all of this glue will dry and it will just clean up really nice. So now I have this glue on here. Now what I need to do is line this up so I see those openings. Now both of these pieces are 5.5 by 5.5. There's no guarantee that they're going to line up perfect. And see, this is where it was important to get some adhesive on these little detailed parts so they adhere down. Now, I have made more than one of these cards already, and this is the first time that they lined up perfect. Or on this one, you can see a little bit, but I'm going to say that's okay. Most of the time, part of the white is sticking out like that. Can you imagine what I'm trying to say? It's sticking out. Maybe it got assembled like that. If that was the case, then I take it to my paper trimmer and I use the designer series paper or the gold foil, whichever is this top cutout one. That's my master, and I trim all of the excess white off of it. But I actually am so surprised that this one worked out as well as it did. Now this liquid glue just takes a tad bit of time to dry, and now we have turned those two pieces into one layer. Now I mentioned this will dry and you can clean that up really well. I'm just going to set that aside. Now we have this 5.5 by 5.5. We need to cut this. This needs to be 2 3/4 or approximately. I'm going to bring in my paper trimmer. Now when you watched the video I did yesterday, I grabbed an old paper trimmer. This is the newest one that we sell. And what's nice about this one, you got a little bit bigger wall here. And yesterday I grabbed the wrong one from the shelf. So this is 5.5. Half of 5.5 is 2 3/4. So I'm going to go over here, and you have a scoring blade is the light gray, the cutting blade is the dark gray. I'm going to cut that. Now I have 2 of these, so I can create 2 cards with this. So then I'm going to keep this over here and show you how I like to utilize that. Our card base height is 5.5. This height is 5.5. So it doesn't matter which one you start out with. I will tell you that this paper has a direction to it, so you do want to be sure that you keep the direction of the script going the right direction. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use this one. As I mentioned, that other one can be used to create a card, a second card. And I'm going to put my double-sided adhesive. I like using the Stampin' Seal. I'm leaving this in the pictures because I like this for the wall right here. This is what I was referring to yesterday's video. I used the old cutter paper trimmer. Now my fold is on my left. I'm going to push this up against the wall, and what that's going to do is allow me to get this edge and that edge equal. I'm going to have about a little less than 1/4 inch space right here, pushing both of these up against the wall so I can get that to adhere so it's flush here and flush here. If it wasn't flush here, just open this up and trim so you have those two flush. So now we've got that part done. Now I have finished cards of the other papers to share with you as soon as I get this all assembled. So I think I must have moved all the stuff out of the way here. So let's get all of these pieces back, and here we go. So there's a variety of different ways you can attach these elements. I'm going to use seal to attach my sentiment label. Then I'm going to take mini glue dots, and I'm going to take my Take Your Pick tool. And what I'm going to do is take a mini glue dot and place it right here on the label. They are really sticky and strong adhesive. I'm going to place this first leaf down. I'm going to place another mini glue dot on top of that. Now, if you're a fan of a different adhesive, you are able to use whatever adhesive you like to use the best for this. I'm going to put another glue dot here, and before I put this down, let me put this on the white so you can see it. I'm going to grab a couple of the mini dimensionals, and these are just like our standard dimensionals, but they're smaller. So instead of cutting a standard dimensional in half, you can use these for your smaller areas. And I'm using my Take Your Pick tool to get the backing off. Now I have a mini glue dot there for the little stem part right there, but I have dimensionals to just keep those popped up a little bit. And I'm kind of covering that for that image up, but it's totally okay. Now I'm going to put one more mini glue dot here, and then I'm going to take the baker's twine. This comes in an essential pack of 5 different basic colors. I'm going to use the white. Now you could use a different type of ribbon. I'm just going to keep it with this simple white baker's twine. Create a bow. And let's see, did I remember to bring my scissors back over here? I did. A little unorganized today. I try to be a little bit more organized than this. So here we're going to attach that bow. Now I am going to just tuck in a little bit of that exposed adhesive, put that all underneath the knot of the bow. And to finish this off, I'm going to bring some of these neutral sequins in. These are copper gold, early espresso, and white. And I've been using the gold for these projects. So I'm just going to grab 3 of these. They are 2 different sizes in the 4 different colors, and they are adhesive back. Just adds a great little element to the card. So this is how I finished off those cards, and then you can do this, create another one. This is how this one turned out for me. And then I created with the Peddled Path. And I did use designer series paper here and put another designer series paper element in there. And then are the 2 with the gold foil. The color I used here was Crumb Cake instead of Peddled Path. And then I added some white elements along with the gold. So just a great way to utilize those pieces that are left over from these cards. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you are new to my YouTube channel and have not subscribed yet, I would love to have you subscribe. If you are interested in recreating this card using the same supplies I did or different papers, I have measurements on a PDF that you can download. Look in the text portion of this video. You'll get a direct link to my blog post with the PDF to download. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. Take care and happy creating.